Hi, my name's Stephen. I'm in the UK. I'm going to talk for a bit. I apologise in English, but this is for the whole world. We need a new world order. Our planet is resilient and will bounce back, but we are ruining it. Will cause extinctions of animals which won't come back, and we are quite likely going to ruin the planet, for ourselves at least, meaning that the human race will likely come extinct, which is a shame, because we are pretty close, I'd say, to establishing a race that is sustainable. We, like many other successful species in the past, have become very successful. 7 billion of us over the whole world. We are certainly a very dominant species. But the world can only take so much, and has a finite resource. Food. Food must be grown in the ground with sun and rain. There's only so much you can have. Okay, technology maybe can add a bit here and there. GM crops. Things like that, maybe some more future things, maybe being able to grow things on little islands in the sea. Well, possibly. Possibly not. But we have to accept there's a limit. We cannot be a responsible race, just growing and growing and growing. What do we think we're going to do, live on Mars? And it's quite far away, and it's pretty bleak. I don't think Mars is for us. And as for any other planets far off in the solar system, galaxy, we're going to travel to them and ruin them too? No. The only way, I believe, that the human race could ever continue to travel to other star systems in the galaxy is if we do somehow manage to maintain a sustainable, happy society that lives in harmony with nature. Maybe then we'll unlock the secrets to interstellar travel. My personal belief is that a design system implemented by God, the creator of the universe, would be that no race could possibly manage interstellar travel before it solves a lot of the problems, like killing your own species and greed. So, what I say again, what's needed is a new world order, a power, a force within the human society that can override national rules and set in place systems that mean we're not harming the earth. My love of nature isn't shared with all the people in the world. Many people care about money much more, think about money most of the time, and don't really give nature too much of a thought. And that's part of the problem, obviously, that people aren't aware of what's happening when they go and buy something in the shops or drive their car. We're unaware of the problems that might be causing. Many people haven't really experienced nature in many of its forms. An amazing thing for me was at the age of 19 I travelled to East Africa, and I went to Uganda. I went to a town right on the edge of the Ugandan border called Fort Portal, and from there 26-mile drive in the back of a van to an area where there were crater lakes. There were about 40 lakes in the area, and these crater lakes were, say, a few hundred meters across, usually quite round, and pretty deep in the middle. maybe 200 meters, something like that, maybe more. Well, in this area they're mostly growing banana crops, but around the lakes, most of them, or at least at the time anyway, the nature had been preserved. I did join up with a lady who was there to stop people chopping down the trees around the lake to keep them pristine. Well, I was camping in this one lake that had a hippopotamus at the time in the lake, around the lake, and that was the last hippopotamus of a group. It was a female, and all the other hippopotamuses had been killed by the farmers because they'd been walking on the crops. I looked into the eyes of this hippopotamus while it was floating in the water and I was sitting on a rock, quite safe, and I saw something. I saw this hippopotamus and its ancestors perhaps been in this area for, well, say probably at least hundreds of thousands of years. Quite likely quite a lot longer than any humans. And I saw the natural environment that this hippopotamus would have been in all this time, for so long. The flies, the insects, the trees, the crickets, all the noises. It was truly, truly amazing insight into nature. That night when I was going to sleep in a tent, the cacophony of noises was absolutely amazing, and I remember sort of a dream as I was drifting off, all the noises making up pictures and colours in my mind. And yeah, well, amazing and lovely, but then there's the sad side, which is that it's disappearing, it's going. All these, around these crater lakes, they were growing one thing, bananas, and you'd see everyone piling up bananas onto their bike, and walking it to town to sell, market, or deliver, whatever. And yeah, they grew other things. I mean, they had a lot of chickens, they had eggs. Obviously, they had ability to make bread, or I assume they were making it. They had nuts and sugar beet, but really it was just banana crops, the whole area. And there's obviously a reason for this. I'm sure if they had their way, they would grow a bit of variety. But there's obviously pressures upon them, or there are certain landowners who just want bananas, so that the world can have bananas with their breakfast, or whatever. I like bananas. But the other thing that slightly disturbs me is, we're not even getting good bananas, because when they're picked, these bananas, they're completely green. And the other thing is they do use it as a staple food. They have to cut the banana skins off with a knife, mash them up in hot boiling water, and it's sort of then just used as a staple food. If they're lucky, they might put some meat in there. And these bananas are obviously put on ships, and by the time they get into the supermarkets, into our houses, they've started to go yellow. They can be quite nice. They can often be not very nice. If you want a real banana, banana tree, and the bananas that grow on there are only about 2 inches long. You can, when they're ripe, you can just squeeze them at the bottom, and they just pop up, and they are the sweetest, most delicious bananas you can have. Right, so if they were to pick those ones early, they'd probably be just far too small. It wouldn't be the same. So we are basically starving this countryside in Uganda and its people from a variety of food that they could have, forcing them to grow these bananas purely to be shipped across the oceans, and half of them, at best, eaten in the end. So this is the type of thing that makes me think something needs to change. This is wrong, and a new world order is what's needed. One thing about nature: we human beings are natural. We are conceived and born natural. And when we don't get, if you like, our our amount of nature, in other words, we're in the house, we're in the car, looking at concrete streets, I say we suffer, and we need crutches, we need drugs, alcohol, tea, everything. We need these things, TV. We need these things, we need the stimulus. But when we're in nature, the stimulus is there for us. I've just been on a camping holiday with my son and stepson. We go to Norway because it's the one place I know where you can just go and swim in a lake and, almost drink the water. It is absolutely beautiful. I spend most of the year thinking about it, diving into a lake, fresh water. And you do actually, without drinking, you do actually absorb the water. We've all noticed that after a few swims our wee has gone completely white. We haven't drank anything. It's one of my favourite things to do. And you're in nature, you're camping, it rains or something, the wind comes up. Nature is the stimulus. I'm happy in that situation. People are devoured of nature. They're not happy. I think the reason we have so many suicides is that sort of lack of contact with nature. When you've been outside all day, you feel good. You just do. You look good as well. When you've been stuck indoors in an office or whatever, or just driving around, you don't feel good. And this adds up. It is a shame that, you've got to look at the amount of unhappy people in the world. We humans are trying to fight a war with nature, replacing natural things with chemicals and all sorts of other things, pouring chemicals into the land, into the rivers, pollution into the air. It is as though we are trying to fight a battle with nature. And as I've said, we are nature. And you can't win a battle with nature. We won't be able to strip this world of all its natural things. It won't let us. It will fight back, which it is doing. And it has done in the past too. We've had plagues that have wiped out large parts of the population, other diseases. But I think this time it's make or break time. The population is high, so one thing is for sure, it's going to get cut down. Whether it's wars, or plagues, or famines, it is going to take a cutback. I'd rather the humans were cut back than to send many species of animals, insects, fish, birds, trees, to go extinct. That we are probably capable of. We can't win the battle with nature. A new world order is what is needed. Why do we need a new world order? Why can't nations all get together, sing from the same hymn sheet? I mean, we have world organisations which have done good, mainly for things like wildlife and poverty and famine. But the reason we need a world order is because nations are in competition with each other. And as we know, it's all about economics and growth. That's the race, if you like. But a world order wouldn't be about growth and economics. It would just be about sharing the resources equally. Now, one of the problems with big nations today, England, 60 million people. There's nations with much more people than that, but that's still a lot of people. The person at the end, if you like, the small person working, feels completely insignificant. And when you think on a world scale, even more insignificant. And the people's advice, if you like, the famous people or ultra successful people, will always be never give up hope. which is fine. But even if everyone never gives up hope, they're never all going to be ultra successful. And we're driven to want success, even more so in the developing countries. They strive even more so for the things that indicate success. Big beautiful house, big beautiful car, whatever it is. So, how would we address this problem? Well, I think we are due, high time, for an improvement upon democracy. You could say it's improving all the time. It's certainly not the best thing that we could have. I have an idea, which, if you like, would be my main pledge in a manifesto, which is that we have a new style of governance, and it would actually be the closest current government systems that we know. The closest one that it would be to would be anarchy. Anarchy is actually, most of the time, thought of in the wrong way. The real definition of anarchy is a society without governance. Doesn't actually mean any violence, rioting. It's just a society without governance. And now I say it's close to anarchy, so it's not exactly the same. And what it would involve is everyone would be part of a community. Now I'm talking small numbers. And maybe this will be refined, but my current belief is that a normal human tribe size, ideal for the people in that tribe, if you like, perhaps that's a bit of an old word, would be between 60 and 120 people. Less than 60, and there wouldn't be enough in that group to sort of stimulate everyone enough, and they would go apart and join other groups. Over 120, and you'd get split in a group. Too many people, the group would split, have two factions. So 90 people, plus or minus 30. And like I said, this might be revised. That's just something I've heard. So maybe it's 250, but we're talking small numbers. So say with 90 people, average life expectancy perhaps 90 years old, you'd have one person for every age, which, if you can imagine, growing up in a community like that, there'd always be a few kids, there'd always be a few people of all the ages. And that would be your community. You would grow up with those people. You would then serve that community, and that community would then look after you in your elder years. So, a new world order. Every citizen has a place in their community. They bring them up. They then work for, and then are then looked after. And all these communities should have to be self-sustainable, which would mean they would all be entitled to the appropriate amount of arable land, if you say, land that is capable of sustaining them. So these community land areas would have to differ according to the type of land they occupied. And of course, you would get trade. Communities between each other would have to decide themselves what their bread was worth against their fish, or whatever else they might provide. And in this current world, we have quite an easy, simple way to communicate worldwide. So it wouldn't be going back to cavemen. We would quite easily be able to continue to run the internet. It's quite low powered and capable of having some sort of device still able to be manufactured to interface it. Now maybe they'd only have one computer per community. That's all perhaps we'd need. Then successes and failures of things these communities try can be shared. and we would be forced then to live in harmony with nature. Now, that is a long-term goal and may take more than 100 years to complete, as at the moment most of us, just about, live in cities. In some ways I'm against cities. In some ways they're good, but I think they're more bad than good. And it was only since cities came about that hierarchy came about. Now, in my proposal with the communities, the only hierarchy would be based on age. So, the older you are, the higher you are in the hierarchy. And I think that makes sense and it would work. And it's fair. So, cities could never be self-sustainable because there's just not the land around for them to grow any crops. So to do away with cities would take some time. And I'm not sure, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but I'm not sure if there is enough land at the moment for all these people to be self-sustainable. I guess theoretically there must be, because at the moment we all eat, just about. And greed would be diminished as people born in communities who have grown up, been educated by that community, then may have high aspirations, but the rewards of those aspirations go to its community. So you're much, much less likely to get such greed, because all the rewards are not going to yourself. Indeed, you're having to share it with your community. Of course, this type of living would be very difficult, and there will be problems in moving from what we are now to that. But one thing we could start is the idea of people being members of a community of that size, and any ideas that they may have can be channeled then easily through the community leader, which would, like I said, would be the oldest person. They then would have someone they could contact, and so on. So the individual would actually feel that they were part of a world community. So we could have both globalization and total localization at the same time. But what the world order is really needed for is to ensure that we are not ruining the earth, and that we are to try and live in harmony with nature. Perhaps one idea could be that 90% of all shipping must be done through the use of sails and no engines, as using the wind to navigate the oceans is truly an excellent idea. And in today's world, with the price of energy, both to the pocket and to the planet, sailing could actually be a viable means of transporting goods. Now I say 90%, perhaps there should be some allocation for certain things that are important at the moment. And just think, with these sailboats, we could start making some big vessels again, out of wood. You would have need a skilled crew and captain to manage these things, which would provide many people with a rewarding, enjoyable, challenging occupation. And these people would possibly be quite happy. What I'm hoping to create a picture of here is a better quality of life for everyone, rich or poor, without the need for economies. People would have a better quality of life, being more at one with nature. They would have a better quality of life with the engagements and relationships they have with the people around them. They would have a better quality of life in the sense of having a wholesome living, forced to have a wholesome living. To me, it's a no-brainer to be able to look up and see the stars at night. Clear, bright, would remind us all where we are, what we are, and that is it is truly remarkable when you see the grandeur of our galaxy. We are living organisms who can comprehend where we are, what we are, and the responsibility that has to ourselves and all the other beings living on this planet. Because on this planet, this tiny speck is really where the magic happens. The Earth is beautiful. Mars is desolate. Space is vast, bleak. But we here on this planet have the haven, and we've got to start looking after it, or all the predictions of death and destruction are sure to occur. The people have seen in recent days, recent months, over the last year, that people power is stronger than anything, and if the people want it, the people can have it. And all the rich institutions, some of them been going for thousands of years, will have to let go of their power. If we want it, we can have it. So, how would this New World Order, which I say we need, actually come about? It would obviously need worldwide overwhelming support, say in the regions of 70 to 80% of the people, of the population, need to want it first. And if that could be displayed that that was the case, then I think a system of internet voting could be used, and perhaps through a body, the United Nations, which I would say at the moment is currently the world leader as a world organization, could set up an election, perhaps have a primary, secondary, tertiary elections based on internet votes, starting with a very simple 5-point manifesto, moving into a more intricate manifesto, and finally perhaps between 5 different ideas, all scrutinized, debated, publicized, and then a final vote on a system for the world. Some way the world, as one, can move forward.